really just want to be able to focus, you know? I love what I do, and I want to be able to focus on it. And sometimes I can't. All right, so I'm Rob Appell. I'm a quilt maker. I've been making quilts since 2001. My mom had a quilt shop in Morro Bay, California, and I didn't realize I was going to fall in love with the artistry of quilting, but way more so the people involved in quilt making. It's been quite a journey. Growing up, I was always encouraged to be creative. Although I am a child of divorce, and so I also often fear I have this fear of loss in me. The gentleman I call my dad, he's been with me my whole life since I was 5. He's an incredible human being. Has supported my mom and I a ton. My mom and I, like I said, my mom encouraged me to be creative. I was allowed to wear different colored shoes and socks to school. She would stand up for me when the kindergarten teacher would call and say he can't jump rope, but he can do other things well and stuff. So she always allowed me to kind of be me. She actually taught me to sew at a young age. I like to do action figures a lot, and so and I like to customize. I love customizing stuff. I've always been encouraged, I guess, to celebrate my uniqueness. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it.
Rob is over the top energetic and full of expression, and he never slows down. At least that's what I thought then. And we were having a meal in a buffet style in a cafeteria, and I could hear Rob, and he kept talking and he kept talking, and I kept thinking, when is he ever going to stop and eat? And I looked over and his food was gone. I have no idea how he ate his food, but Rob's just that full of energy that he can just multitask and take care of things like crazy.
Just being around him, his energy will pour off onto you because he's absolutely electric. It's like he gets plugged in and you can't get the plug out because he just go all the time.
Rob has a really big personality, and it's hard to not be affected by that with him because he just brings that out in you. And it's been such a blessing to me to personally watch the growth that he has done since he's been here. So when Rob first started, I was already here, and we kind of have about the same personality. We love to laugh, we love to joke, we just want to make everybody's day brighter. And so Rob does that every single time he's here.
Yeah, I guess the low point for myself as an alcoholic, for the longest time, I really considered myself a functioning alcoholic. I loved to drink. I was creative. I was fun. I was entertaining. My kids must have been about, well, I can do this math now. It's been 13 years and my son's 21. So what is that, like 7? They were 7 and 5. I was starting to make really bad decisions. I was also traveling a lot for work, and I was starting to miss events because I was hungover. I was ill. The people in the quilting industry were really starting to recognize me and notice me. My gigs were getting bigger. I was working for sewing machine brands and things, and so I would also feel really guilty. Like I get to be on stage doing a trunk show, sharing my story of my quilts, but then I'd go home and drink or go back to a hotel and drink a 6-pack from 10 till midnight. Get up the next morning and try to teach quilt making and feel terrible. And so it all kind of came together. I remember once my son, I came home, I said, man, I'm thirsty. And my son said, Dad, let me get you a beer. I'll never forget that. So that was a pretty low point, but I knew I was really going downhill. I knew I wasn't doing good.
He didn't seem that type to have an issue like that, but in reality, that just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover, I mean, everybody struggles with something in their life, and coming from an alcoholic household, I know the struggles of that. So when I see somebody that has had that struggle, but they're making those differences to change, and for it to be 13 years, that's an amazing accomplishment.
No, I think I did expect the other side of Rob, because I feel like there's two sides to me as well. They're both authentic and they're both true, same with Rob. But when we are teaching or we are explaining something, that's an expressive side. And I feel like I am a very introvert, quiet person. I prefer to be in the studio by myself all the time. And so everybody who is expressive, I don't know this for a fact, I would think everyone that is expressive, that really puts it all out there, has those quiet down moments too.
What's interesting is after 13 years is seeing the repercussions of that effect, because I still see a lot of challenges within the relationship my wife and I have. There's trust issues there. There's challenges. She married a different individual than I am today. She married somebody that was a partier, and I'm not. I'm a quilt maker now, and the kids were young, but I have never kept it from the kids. They know that they know their dad's a recovering alcoholic. They understand that I have challenges. They understand that there's things I'm working through, and today, as I pursue different tools to help me get through some of the triggers, some of the reasons I would want to drink, or the reasons I would get frustrated or stress out or anxious and whatnot, they're there. They really help me. So I guess as I look backwards, I can see more of a negative effect that the alcohol was having on my family, but I didn't see it then. I don't know if that would make sense to anybody.
So for his kids to see that he changed that basically for them to make their life better, is just, it's hard to find somebody like that, that has been through that hasn't gone back.
I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to make it so folks can understand what I individually go through. It's kind of they always say it's your own personal journey, right? I will say, we call ourselves the Friends of Bill W. Folks that are part of AA, of course they get it. Of course they understand. That's why there are groups of people that support each other through recovery. But I do believe everybody's journey is a little bit different, right? Like, I don't have a DUI on my record. I don't have like a really negative, terrible story. I don't have a phoenix story out of the ashes. It's more that I was gonna burn myself out and disappear off of this planet right as I was becoming needed here. The Lord was starting to use me to speak to quilters, to encourage people, to teach people to make stuff. And had I burned out and failed, I would have never made it. I struggle though today. I can't explain to my wife sometimes the challenges. I mean, there's days where I just don't want to do anything. There's still days where I get really depressed. There's still days that I struggle so much with motivation. And there's a phrase, there's HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are triggers for, I think, everybody out there, right? But it's something we talk about in recovery. These are things we have to be careful of. And so this last year, I've been kind of lonely. And I know this sounds terrible, but I get most lonely when I'm around a lot of people. When I go to a big quilt show, when I do a big event, and there's so much energy around it, but then often I go to a hotel room and sit by myself for hours, and it's hard for me to explain the feeling of loneliness when so many folks see me at like the top of this sewing industry, right? He's got a YouTube channel, he's got books, he's got patterns, he's got all this stuff. Like, how could he be lonely? How could he be depressed? And so I guess it's hard for me to connect sometimes on that level, but I rely on my friends. I have a kind of a close-knit group of people that I've really learned to trust. We call ourselves the Quilting All-Stars, but it is an emergency support group. It's a lot of fun. But if I ever need to send a bat signal or an SOS, my friends will come to rescue. They'll get on the phone with me anytime, and they'll just listen to me. And I feel stupid saying that I get lonely by being popular, but it's real, man. It's just real.
We're not trying to be somebody we're not. We're still authentic. It's just the quiet time that it takes to recover from being an expressive and a teacher and showing yourself. You just got to regroup, and you have to learn how to take care of yourself and let yourself settle and just be. And so that side of Rob I've seen, where he just has to settle and be. And it's a good side too.
Yeah, the successful approach to recovery, the time it stuck, of course, because I'm sure everybody out there that's been through the recovery process has a few times it didn't stick. Who is it? George Burns says, quitting smoking's the easiest thing. He's done it 100 times, right? So at any rate, for me, I would try and I would usually turn back to drinking. And I was actually teaching on a quilting cruise, and I was very sick on the cruise. I didn't feel good, and I was also drinking. And by the time I got off that 2-week quilting cruise, I was so toxic inside and out. I said to my wife, I said, as we were driving home, it was a 6-hour-long drive, I said, I think I'm going to just take a break from alcohol for a little while again. And she never gave me an ultimatum, but she said, I remember verbatim, she said, I wish you would stop saying that to me. Because when you say that to me, it breaks my heart because I don't really think you're going to do it. Nothing I'd love more for you to get your act together, but please just stop telling me. Maybe it's that actions speak louder than words thing. But that was the real turning point that day. That was the last day I took a drink. That was February 20th, 2012. So I remember that specifically because I was driving home from a quilting cruise. And, I made a lot of changes. I made a lot of physical changes. I had to break my routines. I had to break my habits. I had to do a lot of different physical strategies and barriers and structures to get through it. But that was that first real turning point that stuck. I knew it had to be done, but that's when it happened. My friends that I rely on today were not in my life 13 years ago. The friends I hung out with in my life back then, they were encouraging, but I was also in an interesting transition. I think it's something that a lot of people go through in maybe their 30s and 40s. I was a dad, I was a husband, I was working in a career. I was more focused on myself and my family. I didn't have a lot of male friends. It's hard to have guy friends out there. It's funny, and most of my male friends today are quilters, which is also kind of awesome because we have that we share in, but we also kind of have come together because a lot of us have our own personal struggles, our own PTSDs that we're using quilting and crafting and working with our hands as our therapy to get through. So my friends have been incredibly helpful. My friends groups have changed over the years. I never had anybody that was ever really not helpful in that. That was one of the things. I can't ever think of that one person that was just bringing me down. I think most of my family and friends at that point understood the need for me to make a healthier choice.
So for him to go through the struggles that he's gone through in his life with alcohol and things like that, to see him now 13 years sober is just an inspiration to me and most here at Stitchin Heaven.
It is really cool that he did that. 13 years of anything is a long time. 13 years of sobriety is, I haven't had that struggle. Obviously in life we all have different struggles, but that's a rough struggle. I've known people who have been in that struggle. So to conquer it and to keep it conquered for 13 years is incredible. And I know it's because he works hard at it. He has the right tools to follow through with that. I'm super proud of Rob.
I talk about having tools to rely on, a place to get away from a busy brain. My peace comes from a variety of locations. I'm a believer. I spend a little bit of time every morning in prayer. I read my Bible. I also love to exercise. I love to surf. I love to skateboard. Those kind of movement board sport exercises, they help me, but they're also kind of scary. They're a challenge, At any moment I could wipe out and have to go to the dentist or something silly like that. I love to draw. I love to sew. I love to work with my hands. One of the things that didn't bring me peace, this is the challenge, and maybe this will help some of my friends out there that are listening today. Once YouTube became a career for me, once I was relying on the popularity of my projects on YouTube, I started to get really depressed. I started to get really stressed out, chasing the numbers. So I've had to learn that my peace doesn't actually come from my popularity on YouTube. That's where we'll call it profit comes from, right? That's where my career comes from. But for a long time, I was finding peace in sewing and peace in working with my hands. But once that design career turned into a presenter's career, it was really hard. The pace went 10 times as fast. The audiences grew really large, and it was very, very challenging. And so I learned to do other art. I could think art should be something that people do as an expression, a getaway. It's something you should go to when you want to, should I just say, when you want to suck at something, right? You don't have to be good at everything. So learning to let go and not take life so seriously has been a big part of my recovery process, but then therefore doing other art that I don't have to be good at, other art that I don't have to teach on camera. So a few years ago, I learned a lot about woodworking. I built a little wood shop. I made a guitar. I made a bunch of pens and pencils and seam rippers and stilettos and coffee, salt and pepper grinders and all kinds of stuff like that. I got into knitting. I love to knit because I fly so much to all these different locations, and I get airsick, and so I like to knit because I can sit on the airplane and knit and watch a little movie and just kind of be in my own world. That helps me with my anxiety a bit. I've learned to tattoo. Before I was a quilt maker, I was really interested in the art form of tattooing, but I was terrified of the folks that were doing tattoos. I mean, it's kind of a sketchy, dark industry, a lot of folks may believe. And so a few years ago, I met a person through surfing who has taught me to tattoo. I've become a licensed tattoo artist, done about 160 tattoos over the last year and a half or so, including tattooing on myself. And oh, folks, I absolutely love it. And here's why. It causes me to focus 100%. If you're not aware, tattoos are permanent, and I don't want to mess up at all, right? There's no eraser in tattooing. And so to be able to create a design, and that's the other thing I love about it, is I'm creating somebody else's design. I'm not making everything out of my own brain. I'm tattooing other people's creativity onto them. And that's really fun. There's a lot of, there's a closeness, there's an interaction between the people. So that has really helped me, but I always like to take what I'm learning in my outside art world and apply it to my quilting career, right? So I feel like this year, I've learned to design fabric. So I'm designing fabric in the same ways that I'm designing tattoos. And I've had 3 fabric lines that have come out that have been very successful. I have a lot of new patterns that have come out, but in tattooing, because it's kind of single element design sometimes, we're often focused on composition and contrast. And I think working on composition and contrast this year has helped me become a better quilt designer as well. So finding outside sources that feed into my income making art, but also feed into my peace and my soul, has really been where I found my peace. So yes, longest answer ever. I've got to have my daily exercise and my daily devotional, but working through art and working with my hands in both a very effective way here on YouTube through my quilt making, but in an also practicing to let go, practicing to not be so involved in everything. And that's kind of where the tattooing comes in. I have to be focused on my clients' needs for that. And so that's brought a lot of peace this year. It's been fun. And it's all about getting out of my own head. Right? It gets really noisy in my head. I mean, folks think I drink a ton of coffee, and I love coffee, but man, I am jacked up in my head. And alcohol for a lot of years was the substance I used to quiet that noise. And that's been the only thing I guess I have to say that's I don't love about where I'm at today, is because the noise is back, right? The noise is there. Sorry. Did, I guess. I guess you did. And that's okay to use on camera if you need. But the noise isn't always bad, but it's really loud and distracting. And it makes it so I can't concentrate. I really just want to be able to focus, I love what I do. And I want to be able to focus on it. And sometimes I can't. Yeah, the tattoos actually, it's the first ones I did for recovery was, I have my kids' names, Brandon and Ruby here. And that was kind of like that reminder, you know, like if you're doing your 12-ounce curls, right? You're getting that arm buff, and you see those kids' names there. And then because of the process of learning to tattoo over the last couple of years, Ed Molina, my mentor, my trainer, and my great friend, he is a like 30-year tattoo artist. And so we're working on a full sleeve. This is my story of what Jesus means to me. And big part of my life. Yeah, so February 20th, I always swap out my coins, and I'm really excited because a couple of years ago, you know, I get them online, and they had come up with a couple of new mountain designs, and I love being out in the mountains. I love being outside, and so the 12-year coin says the best view comes after the hardest climb, and I actually had a pretty good year 12. I feel like the hard climbs I went through were great learning lessons. Again, we're learning to rely on my friends. And yeah, even though I broke down a little bit about the noise in my head and the loneliness, I think that part of recovery is recognizing the challenge, right? Recognizing what you're afraid of and learning to face the fear in a positive way. And so, you know, this coin here, it says, you will presently live in a new, wonderful world. And I've said this in the years before. Living in the present is really important for recovery. I think it's important for everybody. Because if you live in the past, you often struggle with regret. If you live in the future, you often struggle with the anxiety. Am I doing enough? Am I, right? Well, we can't do much about the past, and we certainly can't do much about the future other than try to build our better selves, our best selves. All we can really do is be present. I feel like that's what the Lord asks me to do so that I can be a conduit, a good positive message, maybe a source of light to other folks. I feel like it's what creativity calls us to do, to be present, to work through the fabrics we have in front of us. You know, quilting is a challenge. But it's lovely, you know. How bad is that seam allowance? Should I really take it out and redo it? Do those points have to really match? You know, can I let go? And so by living in the present, I find that I don't spend as much time worrying. I don't find as much time being anxious. And also, funny enough, this coin was available. It had a 13. You know, all the other ones seem to have a Roman numeral on it, and I've got all the other ones with the Roman numeral. So I chose this coin and actually had the number 13 coin ever since last year when the 12 coin arrived, which I think is pretty slick. And so the only thing I haven't done yet is taken the 13 coin out on a big adventure and christen it. I'm going to be driving up to Oregon soon again. I think I might stop by the waterfall and take a swim with it in my hand or something. Keep it in my pocket at all times. It's kind of a worry stone. You know, I rub it when I need to remind myself of the bigger picture, the greater importance. You know, everybody has a challenge. You know, mine are minor in comparison to a lot of them. I have a friend who's recently lost her husband, you know, and there's a lot of you out there as well that are probably having major issues, major struggles. And so let's just encourage everybody. Let's encourage each other. Let's support each other. Let's find friend groups we can be part of. Let's find some arts and crafts we can rely on and turn to. And let's maybe make this 13th year for me, or 2025, about not taking things so seriously. Let's take the community seriously, but what happens within it, not so much. Let's just rely on each other and support each other. Look out for each other. You know, make sure that if you've got a friend in need, if somebody crosses your mind, you don't let it go. You know, reach out, say something nice. You know, drop them a word, a note, a text, a video of encouragement or something. And you know, I just thank you all so much for being a part of my journey and encouraging me to keep pushing for my better self. I know there are great days in the future because I've had so many great days in the past, and just happy to be here today presently.
To conquer it and to keep it conquered for 13 years is incredible. And I know it's because he works hard at it. He has the right tools to follow through with that. I'm super proud of Rob.
Hello, neighbors. Combat Quilter here. Just figured I would say congrats to my pal Rob for reaching 13 years of sobriety. No small feat whatsoever, pal. And of course, the real reason why I call you a friend is because you're real, approachable, and genuine. Appreciate our friendship. Love you, man.
Hi there, Stephanie of Together We Sew Quilting, also known as Stephanie Stitches. I met Rob virtually a few years ago through mutual friends in the business, but I got to meet him in person last year, and let me tell you, it's his energy that really draws you in, but it's his honesty and kindness that keep you. Rob, it's an honor to be one of your all-stars, but it's even more of an honor and a blessing to be your friend. Congratulations on 13 years of sobriety. I'm so proud of you and can't wait to celebrate many, many more. Love you, my friend, and can't wait to see you soon. Bye.
Congratulations, brother. 13 years, man. Great milestone. I'm so proud of you. I love you. I can't wait to see you when we get on the cruise ship so we can act like 14-year-olds. But you are the guiding pathfinder for me, brother. I'm glad you make these milestones because it helps me make my own. All right? Keep it going. Stay strong. Love you, man.
13 years of sobriety is quite an achievement, my friend. Keep doing what you're doing and carry on.
Wow, 13 years of recovery is really something to celebrate. And what a feat. Thank you for being who you are, Rob. And thank you for being such an incredible member of the Stitchin Heaven team. You bring so much to us with your attitude, with your talent, and we really appreciate having you on the team. So, hey, 13 more years, go for it.